I was 18 and I was applying to colleges, and my first and most important advisor was my mother. Everyone can be rejected, and you need to think through a strategy of having different types of schools. It will take work talking to your parents and explaining to them why you want to do it and what you hope to get out of it, and what your dream is and what your mission is.
Welcome back to Education USA Talks with me, Muhammad Iqbal. I'm one of the Education USA advisor based in US Embassy, Jakarta. Today, we are thrilled to bring you a special episode to celebrate International Education Week with a special guest. So when I say special, this is going to be a special. We have with us right now the US Ambassador to Indonesia, Ambassador Kamala Shurin Lahdi. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
I know you're so busy.
Well, but this is important. I like doing this. This is fun.
Okay, which one to be, you like to be called, ma'am? Ambassador Kamala or Ambassador Lahdi?
Ambassador Kamala.
All right, thank you so much. I prepared some of questions that I want to ask. Okay, the first question is, you are now as the U.S. Ambassador to Indonesia, and I think a lot of people wanted to know your education experience. So if you could share your education experience, including your master's degree, your bachelor degree, which university you went to, and then what major you took at that time, that will be great. Go on.
So my undergraduate degree is a Bachelor's of Arts that I received from Harvard College in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I studied something called social studies, which is not a formal faculty major. It was an interdisciplinary major where we could take courses across all the social science departments. So anthropology, history, economics, political science. Even they wanted to put in literature, but that the university refused. So it was a very broad study of liberal arts and social theory, social sciences. So I graduated in 1986, and then I did then go overseas, and I was a teacher in China. I taught English and as a second language, and I taught American history. When I came back, I didn't know what to do for my profession. I was confused, but I then started working for the New York City school system.
Oh, okay.
And I worked for the budget director of the New York City school system. And it was a school system from pre-K, pre-kindergarten, all the way through high school. And because I was working for the budget director, I felt like I didn't have a lot of background in public finance. So the city awarded me a mayor's scholarship that paid 50% of the tuition at New York University's Wagner School of Public Administration.
Oh, okay.
And it was a degree in public finance. So I went at night. So during the day I worked.
Oh, wow.
And then on Saturday and in the evening I would go to school. And I got half a degree, and then the Foreign Service called me, and I joined the State Department Diplomatic Foreign Service Corps, and I never finished my degree in public finance.
All right. Okay. That's a complicated, it seems. Okay.
Oh, there's more.
More on that. Okay. Right. You choose Harvard and then NYU, and then you studied Foreign Service.
Foreign Service.
Okay. So, okay, we're going to talk.
And in the Foreign Service, actually, I do have a master's degree, because the Foreign Service let me go to National War College in Washington.
Oh, okay.
And I studied for 1 year, and I got a master's in national security strategy. And I was one of the few Foreign Service officers studying with the lieutenant colonels and the colonels.
Awesome.
For a year.
All right. Okay. My next questions. As we know, ma'am, that's a lot of university in the United States. More than 4,500 university. There's a lot to choose from, right?
Correct.
Sometimes students get confused. Which one is the best for me? Which major? Which university? So in your case, probably if you can share, how did you find best fit university suited for both your major and your career?
So I was 18 and I was applying to colleges, and my first and most important advisor was my mother. And she felt that I should go to a small college, and what we call a small liberal arts college, that would allow me to study broadly, because I didn't know what area of study I really wanted to focus on, or what I wanted to be when I grew up. And she thought that a small college would be a better environment for me. The other thing that my family, also my brother who was older than me, and my mother thought correctly, and this is very true for all students, is to not pick only one college or one school to apply to, because you don't know whether you'll be admitted, right? Okay. And also, you need to, as you learn about the colleges, you may realize that what you think you wanted at the beginning is not what you want at the end. So what my mother did with me is I applied to some schools where I thought I was not going to be admitted. They were a real stretch, and it was likely I was going to be rejected. Then I applied to some schools in the middle where it was likely I was going to be admitted, not 100% sure. And then we have a third category called a safety school, where you think I will likely get in. I actually didn't apply to any safety schools, because I knew that I was going to take a year off before going to college. And so if I didn't get into a college that I would like to attend, that I would try again. So I also didn't listen completely to my mother. So I applied to some big schools, some difficult schools to get into, like Harvard and Brown and Stanford. And I followed through with some small liberal arts schools. I applied to Haverford College, Swarthmore College, and Oberlin. This is what I remember. Maybe there was one or two more that I've forgotten. And many of these schools rejected me. Yes. This is important for everyone to understand who's listening, that everyone can be rejected, and you need to think through a strategy of having different types of schools and be prepared that if you're rejected, you're rejected. So Swarthmore College and Stanford and Brown, they rejected me.
Wow.
Right. And I did not receive admittance. And then Harvard and Haverford and Oberlin accepted me. So then I had to have a choice. What kind of school did I want to go to? And where? That's the other difference. Oberlin is in the middle of the U.S. So there's also geographic. Do you want to go in the East Coast or the West Coast? What kind of weather? Do you want a big school? Do you want to be in a city, or do you want to be in a campus environment? So the truth is, probably my mother wanted me to go to Oberlin. But I ended up picking Harvard College.
Okay.
So, and there were some good things about it, and then there were some really tough things about it. And then there were the way as you go to college, you grow up and you learn things. And if you knew everything when you began, that's not the point of an education. You have to learn through the experience, which I did.
Okay, wow, that's a nice story. I remember that you, in the beginning, you mentioned about then when you completed after Harvard, and then you went to China, right, for 2 years. get an experience and teaching history, American history, and teaching English. I think my next question is related to international educations, which that was your international education experience at that time. So
No, but actually, let me tell you that my first international education where I was independent, not with my parents, was when I was 18 years old.
Okay.
So before...
You should tell that.
Yes. Before I went to college at Harvard, so formal college, when I was 18, I wanted to go and live overseas and study overseas at 18. Okay. So again, I researched how could I do this. And so what I ended up doing, it was hard. I had to find different programs. I had to figure out, does this program work for me? What is maybe am I admitted into this program? So what I ended up doing was spending a year in Kenya, in Africa, East Africa, and I was with something called Friends World College, which no longer exists, but it was a college that believed in experiential education and believed in living in different cultures so that you had the education of international education. So I lived for a year in Kenya, and in Kenya I lived with subsistence farmers, and I taught English in a primary school. I also spent about 3.5 months living with a family on an island off the coast of Kenya and learning how to sail and fish in the traditional manner. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my whole life. Being ambassador is easy compared to living with subsistence farmers in Kenya.
All right.
Yes. So, and I also was studying, besides teaching English in elementary school and primary school, I was also studying traditional healing practices of the people, the Kenyan people I was living with. So I was learning many, many things, but the most important thing I learned was how very different the world is, how people's lives in other countries are can be very different and also at the same time very much the same. And the kindness and the care of the people I was living with, the Kenyans, and the people I met taught me a huge amount about other cultures, respect for other cultures, and it taught me to be a much more confident and mature person. And when I returned to study in traditional college, Harvard College, I brought with me a bigger picture and awareness of what the rest of the world is like and the purpose of my education.
That's the value of international education.
Correct. And I also learned to speak Kiswahili. I learned about the challenges of the beginning of debt, where I was living in my second school that I worked in, there was debt. And so there was no water, and we had to walk hours to get water. We also, to go to school, the school I was teaching with, I had to walk for 2 hours every morning and evening. I got malaria. There was illness, yes. So many things I learned about other people's lives, not living on the East Coast of the United States of America.
All right, this is an amazing story. Okay, my next question, ma'am. You are now as U.S. Ambassador to Indonesia, and I believe that you want more Indonesians study in the United States, right? So if you could share, in your opinion, why is it important for Indonesian students studying in the United States?
So the first thing is, the most basic thing is an opportunity for Indonesian students to have the experience, like I did at 18, of living in a different culture, understanding the different ways people think, opening their minds to a broader vision, a different way, of doing things. They may come home and say, oh, the way we do this in Indonesia is great, and I learned that. Or they may have thought, you know, we could do things in a different way to help to improve the situation in Indonesia. The other thing is for Indonesians going to the US will have a huge impact on their English language, not their fluency, their confidence in speaking, their understanding of sort of the colloquial vocabulary, the context of the language. I also think that there will be opportunities for them to make friends with Americans and other international students who may be studying at the same college, networks of people opening their mind to different types of education, different types of careers they could have in the future, networks of Americans that they could continue the relationship with even after they return. I think the other thing is that the broader our vision, the broader our young people have vision, the better they will make the world. And so I always say, please go to the United States. I think the United States has an incredible variety and diversity of people and opportunities and colleges and universities and training. But my real message is go somewhere. See the bigger world. Challenge and be confident. Challenge yourself that I can do this. It's hard. Like I went to Kenya. I didn't know how hard it was going to be, but I came back and I said, yes, I have the confidence. I can do this. I have the maturity. I've learned how to adapt to a new place.
So if you could share your tip and tricks for Indonesian students who are applying for this year, what will be tip and tricks that you're going to say?
So the first trick is speak to people who speak to your peers or those who are a little bit older who are studying in the US. Ask them, how did you apply? How did you pick this school? What are the good things and bad things? What are the things you learned going through the process? Then if you're interested in particular schools, find out if there's an alumni group in Indonesia.
That's important.
And talk to those who graduated. Ask them, why did you pick this school? What did you learn there? Should I consider other schools, right? Keep mining for information from everyone. Then talk to your teachers. Have they applied? Do they know people who applied? Talk to family members. Talk to a variety of universities and colleges. Of course, talk to Education USA.
That I'm about to say.
Right. Talk to people who can give you advice about financing. Don't think of only schools that you know the names of. This is a fallacy that many students have. Well, I know the name Harvard or I know the name Stanford. And look, the ambassador just gave those names. There are so many opportunities and different choices. And remember what I did. Don't pick one type of school.
I agree with that.
Right? Pick different types of schools. And you can think through what works for you. Maybe you want to go to a small school so you can build up your confidence, your language ability, so you know that you will be with your peers. Maybe you want to go to a community college so you can strengthen your language and your core skills, adapt to the United States, and then go on to another university or college with the help of that community college experience. So don't be overwhelmed with the choice. That can be very, very overwhelming, but keep talking to people. Do you want to be in California? Do you want to be on the East Coast? Do you want to see snow? Do you, right? There are all sorts of things, but keep talking to people, including those who have the skills like Education USA, and also go back and check. People may tell you, oh, don't go there. You know, people are, that's too hard, or people are mean. Check in with other people. Is that accurate, or are people just hearing rumors? So you have to you have to put the work in to find what will be best for you and your family.
Awesome.
Yes.
Talk with Education USA first.
Talk with Education USA first. And also, Education USA is for everyone.
Everyone.
For
absolutely.
everyone. And you don't, by talking to them, you're not making any commitment. You're exploring and you can talk to them, and maybe now you don't end up going to the US, but maybe for graduate school.
Yep.
The more you know, the more tools you have to use whenever you need them.
So if you could return to the university, what would you want to study?
So, so the truth is that when this diplomatic career is over, I may go back to university and study again. And what I may study, because I have developed a deep interest, is public health. And part of the reason I became interested in public health was when I was an officer here in Indonesia from 1994 to 1996. It was my second assignment as a young diplomat. And I met colleagues working at USAID, Agency for International Development, and who were working on the HIV/AIDS epidemic, which at that time was spreading across the world. And it was so interesting talking to them about how the challenge was influencing people to change their behavior and their habits. So it was a piece of anthropology, and it was a piece of what is the nature of the disease, and it was a piece on how do we change people's behaviors. And I've always been fascinated since then in public health issues.
Wow.
For example, we've just been through COVID. We have emerging diseases. I served in Malaysia, now in Indonesia, because of animal-human contact. So I think it's an area of work that brings in so many different aspects: environmental, biology of health, human beings, and how they engage and interact and seek their own better health conditions. So public health.
So was that your favorite subject when you were in the high school?
No. So my favorite, the subject that I studied in college, I'll do college. The subject that I studied and what I received and wrote my thesis in was on women's history. And I had a seminar with a young professor. There were only 10 of us in the class. Mm-hmm. And we were studying women's history in the United States and sort of what the history of women's movements and women's movements in order to achieve greater freedoms, including things like the vote or the right to work or the right to divorce their husbands and have custody of their children, and how women's movements had a huge impact on American history. So that was, again, a course that had many different aspects, economics and history. And one of the things at Radcliffe College, which is the women's college of Harvard, so Harvard Radcliffe College, is they have the Schlesinger Library and Archive. Mm-hmm. And they are the most famous for their cookbooks. They have a huge collection of cookbooks because cookbooks are about women's history. Wow. Yes. And so that the sort of approaching the political movements that continue to this day among women and men who support them was an area of study that I did in college that I enjoyed very much. And I still apply what I learned in my work today.
Okay, so because our time is so limited, this is going to be the last question.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Sad.
Yeah, it's going to be so sad.
Okay.
So I think this is going to giving the last message to Indonesian students. What do you say to Indonesian who dream of studying in the United States? This is going to be, you should be very giving some good message for Indonesians.
So you can study. It will take work to figure out how to do it. It will take work to figure out how to finance it, how to find the resources to do it. It will take work talking to your parents and explaining to them why you want to do it and what you hope to get out of it and what your dream is and what your mission is. There's another thing I want to tell everyone because I think it's an important message. So in the United States, we recognize that there are lots of students with different backgrounds, different experiences, and different success. So a lot of people think that I must have been a very, very good student to get into Harvard. The truth is, as a young person, I struggled because I found it hard to succeed in traditional school, especially when I was what I call a munchkin in elementary and middle school, junior high school, we called it. And so I often was successful in some subjects and very bad at other subjects. And sometimes I did well in tests and sometimes I didn't do very well. So I was not good at everything across the board. But in the United States, there are so many colleges and universities that will recognize that there are students who, as they are coming up, they have not done everything perfectly, but they are ready to work with those students to be successful. And I consider myself in that category. There are ways that as we learn, as we mature in how we learn, we get stronger and better. I'm not a scientist. Probably I couldn't have been a scientist, but maybe I could have eventually. But that is the opportunity that the United States higher education community offers. There's so many options and there's so many opportunities. You should not feel limited because you think I have not been a good student or I have not passed all the tests at the top score. There are opportunities for students of every variety and type. And Education USA can help you figure out how you can study in the US, given your background and given what kind of education you need.
All right. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for, this is absolute honor having you on the podcast.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
I know, right? Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom for sharing with us. So for our listener, thank you so much for listening and watching this podcast. We get a lot of information from Ambassador Kamala today, and hopefully you have to stay tuned with the Education USA podcast to get more inspiring talks. All right, so I'm the host, Muhammad Iqbal. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Take care.